What was it like growing up in New York?
What was it like growing up in New York? I mean, when you're a child, from a child's perspective, you don't know any better. You don't know the rest of the world. Yeah, I mean, the same question could apply to anyone else. Like, what was it like to grow up in Indonesia? What was it like to grow up in Wisconsin? What was it like to grow up? But as a New Yorker, and that's what you know from the five boroughs, it was like with any child too. It was filled with wonder, but you always had to listen to your parents and be somewhat cautious because and you don't understand the complexities of things and the bad stuff people are doing. Your parents are like, "Hey, when them lights come on in the street, you better have your behind in the house." But I remember in 1977, my grandmother didn't want me and my sister to ride our bicycles off the block because the son of Sam was killing people. Like knowing years later and actually having been locked up in a jail, I used to feed him every day, and he was like, "This guy he'll kill you, but he wasn't as harmful as people may think." But that's the way the media sensationalized. Growing up in New York, though, it was being a kid in New York. It was good, man. It was, for my generation, it was a time of wonder. The Yankees were always winning. We always had sports. We always had the Giants and the Jets, the Rangers and the Islanders. There's always something going on. But growing up in New York, looking back, man, it was a good experience.
What was your relationship with your parents like?
Once again, as a child, that's all you know. Mommy and daddy. You love your parents. You don't realize things are screwy until you start talking to other people or maybe other adults get involved and they tell you, "No, Scott, that's actually wrong." But I love both my parents. I loved them when I was a kid. And, I looked up to my father. My father was like any boy. Your father's a hero and mom is like everything. My dad's a cop, Vietnam veteran. So I looked at my father like, wow, dad. My mom was one of the brightest, most articulate, well dressed, clean, best cooking human beings on the planet. To offset that, though, my mom was abusive. So, she was physically abusive to me and would oftentimes take her frustrations out on me in the form of punches and whatever object she could hit me with. So, that wasn't cool. And you don't learn that, hey, this love relationship is supposed to be all about loving, nurturing. It's supposed to have zero abuse in it, but you don't learn that until many years later. But overall, my relationship, sans the abuse, was all right with my parents.
When did you, as a black child, realize racism is a thing?
Man, I'm gonna go back to a important period in African American history and Black history in this country. When Roots came out as a miniseries on TV, if I'm not mistaken, it was on Channel 7. It was on ABC, Channel 7 in New York, okay, New York City. And Roots came on, and it was required programming. We had to watch. Like everyone, Alex Haley was this great author, great black author. He also wrote the autobiography of Malcolm X. So, he has his important place in black history. And they talked about it in my grandma's church, and everybody was tuned in to Roots. You had to watch Roots. And I even remember some of my school teachers being a little bit kinder. I know that it upset a lot of adults. Like it made people uneasy. So they somewhat tread lightly around us kids. I was in elementary school at the time, and I was a sweet, loving boy. I listened to the adults. I was a good kid. But, if you had teachers before that were kind to you, they might have smiled a little bit more. They might have been a little bit more affectionate because they looked at this shit on the TV and said, damn, man, black people were done dirty. Like, woo. And that was the first time, and it was around that same time in the 70s. I think Roots came out, the year after Son of Sam? It was 77 or 78. I remember being a little boy and watching with my mom. My grandma. Excuse me, mom was in California still at the time. With grandma and grandpa and my sister. And we watched Roots the whole week through, the whole miniseries, and it was that was the first time I realized, man, that things were a little bit different for people who were brown. And and I was a kid experiencing this for the first time, so it was a hell of a wake up call.
I'm gonna switch these around. What would you love to see black people do to better themselves?
And I could just pick one thing. There's a couple of things in that, but I would say one thing. We need a divorce. We need a divorce from this society. If two people aren't getting along and they're in a marriage, what do? Try to get some counseling at first. You talk to some relatives, you have other people intervene, and you talk things out, right? Okay, we've come to the table and we've done that. Now we're past that. We keep chasing our tail, so to speak, and we're getting no closer to solving our social problems. Black people, seriously, I would love to see us divorce ourselves from this society. And everything that would come with that, it would mean that we would have to literally rely on ourselves, no one else. I would love to see us have a separate nation of just us. Because we tried to get along with white America. We've integrated, we've won your gold medals. We've won your wars. We served in every war in this country from the revolution to Afghanistan. We've won Nobel Peace Prizes. We've done everything in here per being American, and yet we still face institutional racism on the job, racism on the street, bullshit from, various groups of people. Hey man, it's really time for us just to get a divorce from this country. I'd want something separate and not segregation. No, that wasn't working out for us. Yeah, we took care of ourselves because that's all we knew. But we don't want segregation. That means that there's a government over your head still oppressing you. No, we need separation.
Kind of like just like a whole state, like they would have done in Oklahoma. Like they had their own community, their own black businesses, banks.
Right, the Black Wall Street, and it's great that you said that because this is the anniversary of the Black Wall Street massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. This is the actual 100-year anniversary. And I think, looking back, at first it started as an angry mob trying to kill a black guy because that supposedly the lady said that he touched her when he was delivering packages with a hand dolly. That he brushed up against this lady and these people wild out. Well, I think overall, sections of white America realize if we allow these black people to continue to thrive and build and make this fucking empire for themselves, we're gonna have a problem. Because they're becoming industrious. They're building shit. And it's gonna get more and more. We gotta fucking have them pump the brakes. And I think that that archaic thinking at that time, and I think it still exists now, just on a different type of level. You can build shit so long as we can control it. You can build shit so long as we can control the outcome. Where's the money going? And I think the destruction of stuff like that, man, was always part of their plan. It was never a plan of any white people in this country to make us be or help us be independent. Never. That was never, in the cards.
All right, so final, name 3 people, dead or alive, you wish you could have met.
Wow. Famous people, dead or alive, I wish I could have met. Well, one, for those that know me, would probably be pretty obvious, being that I'm Jamaican American, and I had dreadlocks down to the floor for a while. I grew up with this man being in my house as like the uncle I've never personally met, but one would be Bob Marley. I would just want him to bless me with some knowledge and wisdom. I would have loved to have hugged Bob and sit down and smoke with him and say, Uncle, man, just lay it on me, man. Just tell me what you've learned. Teach me. And just, his outlook on the world was so incredible. Like, just the way, in a simple way, there was like a complexity within the simplicity of Bob Marley. He would say something, like I remember he was being interviewed one time, and the journalist said to him, he said, what is it like to be the greatest reggae superstar? Like to be an entertainer. And Bob was well in his sensi. It was well in high, man. And Bob looked off. And he turned and he looked at the camera. And he said, I is not an entertainer. Me sing freedom music. A poor man can't be entertained. And he just fucking looked off like that. And I said, oh my God. This is so simple. But what he's saying is true. Yo, y'all are entertained by my music, but if you listen to all my lyrics, I'm telling people to uplift themselves and to love themselves. That's all I ever been saying in these reggae songs. The other one would be Malcolm X. I would have to see Brother Malcolm. To me, he's Father Malcolm. I would have to see Malik Shabazz and pick his brain too. I mean, he means everything to us. He should. Definitely means everything to me. And I would have wanted that wealth of knowledge too. I would have wanted him to say, young man, come here and sit down. And have him just drop that serious mathematics on me. A third person? I have to throw this one out here. And don't get me wrong, because I love Prince, I love David Bowie, I love Eddie Van Halen, I love so many people that are passed and recently passed, but I gotta say, this one's still alive. If I could ever meet him, I would love to sit down with him at the piano, because I've loved him my whole life, and I think the world of him as a New Yorker, and he's just part of the fabric of being a New Yorker, and I've loved his songs my whole life, and he means the world to me. The third one would be Billy Joel. Billy Joel has been a part of my life like those other men, but maybe in a little different way. But I always thought of Billy Joel as like the rebel. Being a kid and hearing Billy Joel's song, I thought he was like the baddest dude, like one of the badass dude. Friday night I crashed your party. Saturday I said I'm sorry. Sunday came and we crashed it out again. We were only having fun, wasn't hurting anyone. Now, oh my goodness, I thought he was the greatest ever. You hear, you had to be a big shot, didn't you? You had to open up your mouth. He's like, Billy fucking Joel, man. Because you cannot handle pressure. And before I die, it's on my bucket list. I gotta hug the piano man. Love him to death. New York forever. Love you, Billy Joel.